Restored Horror.
Hello. Welcome to the Horror Lagoon. I am Gilman Joel, and I'm joined again. And if this becomes regular, I'm going to have Jay redo the intro. It says Horror Lagoon with Gilman and Doc Shock. I'm here with the one and only Dave, Dr. Shock Becker.
Hello. Great to be here to be talking about this movie. Is the last one you did really the what was the one?
Zombie Army. That's the last one.
Zombie Army. Yeah. Really?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because to be fair, this is the first non-spooky flicks fest, other than a couple interviews I did, because the only other the first thing that I've done.
That's true. It's what? It's November 1st today.
Yes,
so
as we record.
We're finally through all of the October fun.
Well, we should be specific. It's November 1st, 2024, as you and I record
true.
this. It's
That's
November
true.
1st, 2027, as Jay puts it out.
Right. 6 months after he put out the Zombie Army one.
Yes,
in
indeed.
2026. Yeah.
Indeed. But yeah, so I basically have shifted. Originally, the whole, as you know, Dave, the Horror Lagoon was all about primarily what I'll call like regional horror. Like it was going to actually be like cult weird stuff. But I mean, I felt like that's too broad because I know you a lot of stuff that, other people cover kind of could fall into that bucket and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, well, I really dig like these DIY, let's put on a show movies. And they don't all have to be shot on video, but thankfully there's a lot of shot on video movies that fall into that bucket. So, Jay may say it's dredging up, which should imply a negative thing. I say we're filtering the swamp water for the little nuggets of gold that we might find.
Absolutely. And a lot of times these are regional.
Yeah. Pretty much all of them. There's always that like friends and family and people from their community were making these movies together because when you've got a budget of $105, that's about what you're gonna do. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so you and I did the Zombie Army, and anybody that's interested, go to Jay of the Dead's New Horror Movies and check that out. We had a nice long conversation about that 1989 or 90. I think it was 90 was released, right?
It was in the 90s, yeah.
Early
it might
90s.
have been shot in, was it shot in the late 80s and then put out in 90 or 91, something like that?
I do believe that is correct. I do believe that is correct. So definitely check that out. But today we are talking about my personal... Talking about like blowing your load early. This is my personal favorite SOV movie, just all around. It's also probably one of I had seen like little bits and pieces of SOV here and there when I was younger, but I never like was into it as a kid because I would shoot everything on video. So to my mind, real movie, I did the snobby, real movies are on film and I'm, having to use VHS and I'd complain about it, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, a lot of these movies I was shooting on video around the time as well, in college. I got that, you get that feeling. And when I was growing up on cable, it was a lot of trauma. A lot of the trauma films were playing on late night on cable. I remember seeing Surf Nazis Must Die and Class of Nukem High and things like that. Now, those aren't shot on video, but those are,
Oh, yeah. But they're very low budget and they're very
low budget and very regional. I mean, they're all, I'm not
New
sure
Jersey,
but all around Jersey.
Oh yeah, and I feel like a lot of the movies that I remember, and a lot of the movies that I remember, like first is The Video Dead, which I think is like one of the greatest posters ever, where it's coming out of the TV, and I had in my head that was an SOV movie, but it wasn't. I think it was shot 16. I think.
Oh wow. Okay.
So maybe been 35. I don't know. But I remember in my head, though, because it was such a low budget movie, I always thought of that as a shot on video movie. But and I remember seeing Redneck Zombies on the shelf. And I don't know if at the time I've seen it since, but I don't remember renting it necessarily. Maybe I did. I just don't remember. But there's a lot of those movies. Intruders wasn't an SOV, but again, it's in that like it was very low budget and gritty, and so I just love that type of stuff. And Ozone, I did find so according to IMDb, and I probably should run this across the bottom for a little the breakdown. I had to slightly edit the IMDb synopsis of the movie. Let's just say it wasn't great. But the release date, according to IMDb, is June 20th, 1993.
Okay.
I've seen other things that indicate maybe later than that, but we'll go with that for the moment because that would have been, I was in high school, 93 to 94 is my senior year.
All right. That was the year I met my wife. This would have been right around the time I was still not allowed to pick a movie because I took her to see Army of Darkness.
Funnily enough, as Daryl likes to point out and make fun of me for, also around the time I met my future wife.
Oh, okay, nice.
And current. And so, so Ozone, I'm going to show the original cover, and I think you got the same one that I did, right? From MakeFlix, J.R. Bookwalter's company. So this is the original cover.
Oh, that's the original, okay.
And that's the one I remember seeing in the video store on VHS. Right. It was a VHS copy, and I remember renting it.
I got it on DVD initially, and that was the same type of cover. That was the same cover on the DVD as well, yeah.
And normally I am a purist for original, and I still love this cover. I think it's just so simple and minimalist, and I just love it. They did a variation of it for the actual release from MakeFlix.
Yep. And that's the one I got as well.
Yeah. And you got the autograph one, right? Where it's signed on the back?
I got the autograph.
Yep. Nice. And because I will say that I'm not trying to one up you here, I promise. Because I got to meet Mr. Bookwalter at it was at Tampa Bay Screams in 2023, April 2023. And it's actually one of the very first things Tyson and I shot for the channel on Mom and Pop Video Shop. I got him to autograph. I bought it from him directly, like at his table.
Nice.
You'd appreciate this. He was right next to Fred Olin Ray.
Oh, wow.
And Fred Olin Ray signed my Armed Response VHS.
Okay.
And
nice.
And he said because I was buying a couple of discs from JR, he wasn't going to charge me.
Wow.
That was just cool. But yeah, so it says Joel, stay sick, J.R. Bookwalter. So he signed that, which was awesome.
That's great.
And as you and I were talking before we started recording, there is a crap ton of extras on this thing, man.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a good amount. And I didn't get to see them all, but I did get to see, I saw a few of them. I saw like in 2003, they went back to the location, which would have been 10 years after they shot there.
Yeah.
And everything was shot in one general area. And they do a great job because you think they're covering the whole city.
Yeah, because they actually had like an abandoned, what was it? Wasn't there some kind of abandoned building or something? I believe
it was at a hospital, and it might have been a building that wasn't being used at the time. And they shot like an alley scene. They shot behind the one area where they ended up shooting the big conflict at the end, and the stairway at the beginning, where they first are going after the drug dealer and the stool pigeon, was right in front of that. Like if you turned around, you'd see the building where the scenes at the end were shot, and that was right in front. So you think it's all over the city, but it's all in this one. Got it at a few hundred yards. It looks like of the same area, which is really cool.
Yeah. And I did see quite a few of the extras. In fact, I've seen Ozone enough times that prior to this, I was watching the commentary rather than just the movie.
Oh, nice.
And it was the 2003 commentary, I think, because I thought it would be, because it's actually J.R. Bookwalter and James Black, the lead in the movie, which we'll get to in a little bit. But and it's just, as I like their camaraderie, because I had recently picked up the SOV 6-pack that Bookwalter put out. It looks like a little Happy Meal, and it's got like Kingdom of the Vampire, Zombie Cop, Chick Boxer,
nice,
and a few others because it's a 6-pack. and basically though, because James Black did a lot of those first truly shot on video movies with Bookwalter, and I feel like this is sort of the culmination of their creative relationship is Ozone. And I really think, first off, I think James Black is really great as the lead. I love him.
He does a great job. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think he's fantastic. I'm hoping he does a con one day so I can meet him and get him to autograph the Blu-ray or whatnot.
That would be great.
Yeah. But I think too, this movie, what I love about it so much is that, yes, it was shot SVHS, which I know I used in high school. I think that's what you used, right? In college. And so remembering that format, and you and I both did the deck to deck editing. Remember what an arduous task that was. So no doubt, I'm sure I maybe he doesn't say, I don't recall him talking specifically how he edited it in the commentary, but maybe
they show in the 3-minute news report where they're talking about like businesses in the area. They said the local news was talking about businesses. They actually show the Tempe. The company that he had started, and you see the exact the editing bay
Yeah.
that I had used in college.
Oh,
And this is
great.
even a couple years after that, but it's like the exact one. And
Yeah,
you just
that's
get a
awesome.
quick shot of it in there, which was really
That's
cool.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have like what? So what do you recall? I have to go back. I don't remember. I have to go back and look at the clip. But do you remember like what was the? Was it just like the 2 monitors and like decks and what was
Yeah,
it?
well, you had the deck there, and I don't know if they even showed the 2 monitors because it was like the deck was here, but I think the monitors were off to the left. So I
Okay.
think so. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I think there were 2 monitors there. There would have had to be.
Yeah.
With that setup. Yeah, and that's what I ended up. It was just really cool to see that. It's like, wow, this is like these guys are getting paid for this. This is like their livelihood, and they're using the same stuff I was using in college, which was pretty cool. And even then, I remember my teacher saying, "Well, this it's starting to get a little bit outdated," and that was 3 years before this guy was using them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
In his studio.
Yeah, I remember when I started at Valencia, this would have been 94, 95. They had just gotten in an Avid. So they'd got their first like nonlinear. And when one of the projects, because as a student there, I got to work on as one of the mini dialogue editors, was this independent film shot in Orlando called Night Orchid. And it was a sound class I was taking. So I was like part of a team of dialogue editors. There was a couple other ones. It's actually, I'm proud to say my first credit is on the movie Night Orchid. Nice. That actually did get released to like movie gallery and stuff. But I did very little. But what was cool that I got to do was it was literally edited on a flatbed chem, like one of those 35. It was shot 35. Okay. So I remember being in that little room with just like, I'm glad I got to have that experience because I feel like that's one that obviously, unless you go to a film school where they make you shoot film, you aren't going to have. And it was a cool thing. Yeah.
No, and it was all video from where I was because the class was gearing you to video production.
Sure,
because that's where everything was going at the time. Even if you get into like industrial films or whatever, commercials, everything was going to video.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because as you and I've discussed in the past, we've sort of commiserated together about how editing deck to deck. It was just and I love editing now. Like that's literally my favorite part of the process. But then it was because the problem wasn't the editing. It was like, it's fine up until the point where you realize you missed something 4 minutes into the edit.
And then you got to go back.
And then you got to go. So I started thinking like a feature length film like this is like, what is it? Almost 80 minutes, somewhere in there.
It's 81 minutes. Yeah.
81. Okay.
And that's with credit. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. But still, I mean, just to think about how meticulous you would have had to be that you don't want to mess that up.
No,
you don't want to mess it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, but I got to tell you, this might have been my first time seeing Ozone.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and what really impressed me, I mean, this is obviously like we're talking very low budget.
Yeah.
But that he went with body horror.
Mm-hmm.
Is really what this movie is, and it's really good body horror. I mean, these are really good effects.
Yeah.
The crappiest effects are the explosions at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, every bit of the stuff they do with the body horror, with the makeup effects and everything, it's damn good. I mean, it is really, really impressive.
Yeah, and you could see the influence, and because when this is shot, of Terminator 2, Sleepwalkers, in that they felt like they needed to do that sort of morphing effect, which funnily enough at the time, I'm sure everybody kind of rolled their eyes at. And yes, it looks very dated, but because of that, and maybe this is the C&D talking, I find it charming in its own way. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I mean, but it's different if a movie with $100 million budget is doing it, and a movie with that these guys
$3,500 budget,
exactly, are doing it, and they're getting the same result.
Oh yeah, and by the way, even if you want to be generous for inflation and double that in today's dollars, it'd be the equivalent of making a movie for $7,000, which by the way still is very low.
Still not enough.
Still very low.
Exactly. Wouldn't pay for the craft services for like half.
Oh yeah, no. I remember hearing, was it Independence Day or JFK? It was a big movie like that, big Hollywood movie. I remember hearing, I don't know if this is true or not, that it was like 100,000 plus a day on like craft services and things like that. I remember hearing that.
I wouldn't doubt it. They probably paid that same amount on Titanic. And yet still nobody noticed somebody dropping PCP into the soup and getting everybody sick.
Oh, did that happen?
Oh, yeah. Some guy was really angry. They don't know who. They still don't know who did it. Dropped PCP into the soup. Cameron got sick. He didn't have to go to hospital, but 20 people or something had to go to the hospital.
Oh, I never heard of that before. Holy crap.
Yeah. And they still don't know who did it. They never found out who did it, but it was somebody who had a grudge against Cameron, which is hard to believe, because he's such a likable guy.
Oh, totally hard to believe. I can't imagine. Although I would argue grudge or no grudge, maybe not trying to poison a bunch of people.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're dropping into the soup because Cameron mentioned, I'm going to go get some soup, there might be other people getting the soup too.
Yeah, there is that. And there's also the argument that can be made, just because the other guy's a dick doesn't mean you have to be a dick / potential murderer.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So even with all that money, they still don't have anybody watching this food, clearly.
Oh, well, there's that. And I would say, and this is me talking, I know I stand on an island alone. I would much rather watch Ozone than Titanic.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people who would agree with you.
Yeah, there probably are. There probably are. So, so I would say, for me, again, I acknowledge there's a level of C&D in this,
Sure.
Just in, tail into high school, I'm knee deep in the horror love, and, I'm just all into wanting to make movies and blah, blah, blah. So I get that I have a bit of a, narrow tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
However, that being said, rewatching it, I think the first time I rewatched it a couple times over the years, but it was a hard movie to find by and large. It really, for a while there, it really was. And then I watched it again. I think, maybe it was Tubi or Amazon. One of them had it on there, and it wasn't a very good, the quality wasn't great, but I hadn't watched it in several years. I remember thinking, holy crap, this movie, just the pacing, the editing, what he was able to
holds up. It really does. And it moves along really great. I mean, it doesn't drag at any point. And I liked the decision. Although at first it strikes you a little bit, because it's like, hey, wait a second, it's all this drug ozone that is being injected into people. They actually get some of it into James Black's character at one point, not a lot, but enough for him to experience some of what's going on with these other characters. But it doesn't affect everyone the same way. So it's not just a constant barrage of zombies coming at you. It's not just a constant, you have the one like the bar that he goes to, where it turns everybody into like these bloodthirsty, let's watch a stage, a steel cage match.
Oh, I love that part. I love that.
And some other, that was a great part. And then he meets up with the girl when he escapes in the basement, and it's affecting her differently. Then you got the guys in the alley who he has a run-in with. They're cannibals, it seems like. That everybody is having a different effect, but it's all, sort of, you can see it all tying into this drug. So that was a really cool idea. It's not like, okay, well, we're going to need 50 zombies. We'll use 10 in this scene, and 5 minutes later, we'll use these 3. And no, they changed it up with everything. And I thought it helped keep things moving along really well.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that struck me was Mike, who was his partner.
Yes.
Might have the busiest parking lot I've ever seen. A guy almost gets run over 3 times.
Yes.
In a parking lot where people are basically just pulling into a spot.
Yes.
But it's almost like the Autobahn, the way they're
the Autobahn of parking lots.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like the guy going 50.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it was again, that I kind of laughed at that. But what was that? There was like maybe a minute sequence in the movie or something.
Oh yeah.
And then a woman pulling into a spot runs over the guy's head.
Oh yeah.
And then gets out and goes, "Hey, what did I do?" Oh yeah, I guess you're pulling into a spot. You didn't see the guy.
You didn't notice that little speed bump? Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
No, but it was fun. It really is. And like I said, I was just really, really impressed with the effects. I can't point to any effect that I was like, wow, that was cheesy. Even the head explosion at the beginning. I mean, this movie starts off with a scanner's moment.
It's a good head explosion.
It is a good head explosion, absolutely. And that is the level of effects, because maybe you don't go in expecting it to look great. You might go into a movie like Terminator 2 expecting to look great, and Terminator 2 did look great. I mean, let's be honest, Terminator 2 was awesome.
Yeah.
With the effects. But you're going to expect that at that level,
Yep.
at this movie, you're like, okay, well, we can make some allowances, but you don't have to make any allowances because they do a damn good job. That's how I felt anyway.
Yeah, agreed. And also, I will go to bat for, as one who spent many a year lamenting having to use VHS and SVHS and Digital 8 and all of these formats, mini DV tapes, all that stuff. Where I always, like, a lot of my shorts that I would make, I'd always make them black and white because I felt like it looked a little bit more like film than the sort of desaturated nature of VHS. And the VHS just has, because of all the frame rate issues and everything else, just has that look. It's that, like, I don't even know I'm sure there's a more intelligent way of calling it, but it looks like video. It does not look like film.
It's like when you're watching a TV show and they say, you could tell when they say filmed in front of a live studio audience or videotaped in front of a live studio audience. Like All in the Family was videotaped. Cheers was filmed.
Yep. It does have a different look.
That different look to the both of them.
But even then, they had the video cameras they were using even back then on that show, or like the Jeffersons or ones like that. It's still, the aesthetic of it is different than consumer grade or even prosumer grade video. Now, it's always like, it's funny, and I've heard this argument, I think actually by Bookwalter himself, is that sort of everything is SOV now, right? Everything is shot in video by and large. Unless you're Christopher Nolan or Quentin Tarantino, and maybe Spielberg. I don't know. Everybody else.
Tarantino's not, and you're right. Yeah, but a lot of other people definitely are. Yeah, I think Oliver Stone argued with Lucas when he was giving him a demonstration of video as well. And Oliver Stone's like, this isn't what we're here to do. So I'm not sure if Oliver Stone is doing it. I don't even know if he's making movies anymore. So I don't know the last movie Oliver Stone made, to be honest.
It's been a minute. Yeah, good point.
But so I think that's right. And what really struck it with me when I saw V for Vendetta in the theater, it's like I'm watching a film on the big screen. I get the Blu-ray for it and I take it over to show my brother. He's playing it and I'm like, my God, it looks like a videotape. This movie looks like a videotape. I was like, I never, when I saw it on the big screen, looked perfectly like a movie. It looked completely like a movie. When I watch it on my lower end TV, it looked like a movie. When I'm watching it on my brother's setup, he's got this advanced setup. All of a sudden, it's video. It looks like it was all in, and it was all shot on video. And like you're saying, all movies are that way now.
Yeah, but there's a different. It's still the higher end, like we were getting like 4K, 8K, whatever, all that stuff. Yeah, it looks pristine, right? You can make it look, but there's something, and maybe it's a beginning old thing, or maybe it's just because I'm just so tired of how homogenized everything can be at times, that there's something about, as I play the original Ozone, as I already told you before we started, on the 1990 RCA console TV, we've got I put in which I don't know if you realize that there's 2 discs on this, and the first disc is actually underneath. See if I can find it real quick. There's a little booklet, which is great. Which if anybody decides to get this, go to Makeflix. I'll put it in the description. Go to Makeflix and support JR and company and buy their stuff. They are not a sponsor, but I am happy to support them in whatever way possible.
But I did notice that the Blu-ray has the remastered.
Yes.
And the DVD has the original.
Yes. And so I've got the DVD playing right now with the original. And here's the thing, as I glance over at it, yes, it's obviously a VHS quality, but there's just, and it adds a texture to it in a way that everything today is so clean. It's very clean and sharp, and I think that could be a bit of a detriment, especially for a movie like this.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Like it's almost like when they came out with a 4K of Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974.
Yeah.
Does that need a 4K? I mean, you want that grit. You don't want that taken out. You don't want any of that grittiness that taken out of that movie. Yeah. And I don't know, was it here when we were talking when I finally got the 4K of Friday the 13th, 1980? That is the very first time that the Kevin Bacon throat kill looked phony. And every version I saw before, I'm like, wow, what a great effect.
Yeah.
On the 4K, you can tell it's a different skin tone.
Yeah.
From the rest of it. And you're like, you know what? I think we've just it's gone too far now in cleaning these things up.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point.
Yeah. These people, when they made them originally, They weren't intending for these things to be seen.
They were some
film.
movies like Friday the 13th. I mean, maybe there was home video at that point,
sure,
but you almost wonder like how much of that was in their head. They probably weren't even thinking about it going past the theater.
Yeah, I doubt Tom Savini is saying, "Hey, you know what? 40 some years from now, they could clean this up really well. I really got to change this or that or no." He's saying on film, that's what it's made for, and it's going to look really good, and it did. I mean, on VHS, on DVD, even in the Blu-ray, I didn't notice it like I noticed it in the 4K.
Yes, and I think I always am reminded, and I know for those that have listened to me over the years, I've brought this up many times. But it's my favorite, probably my overall favorite movie quote because it's so freaking true. And that's Dr. Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. So busy. Now I'm going to screw it up. So busy thinking they didn't stop to ask if they should. I'm probably paraphrasing it. But that sentiment of just because we can, like with the AI stuff, for instance, I think like ChatGPT, it's a great organizational brainstorming tool. But if you're going to rely on that to do everything for you, if you're going to rely on AI to make your movie, then you're not making movies.
No,
you're a button pusher. You're pushing some buttons and things are popping off, but that's not you making a movie by itself. It's like saying I'm a painter, but I never pick up a paintbrush and paint like ever.
Yeah.
Then you're not a freaking painter, bro.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
You know,
no, and how almost hypocritical is it that the push for streaming, like they're getting away from home from home video,
physical media,
but now everything is coming out on 4K. Like they've come up with a new format.
Yeah.
And this is since the push for streaming.
Yes. And to your point, there's a couple of things. One, I would argue that the push to 4K for most people, it's sort of like back in the day with Laserdiscs. And I've got 100 plus here now. So I still love Laserdiscs. But at the time, the argument, but it becomes this like, niche thing or niche, however you want to say it, thing where, yes, it looked better than comparable things at the time, but was it necessary because you could charge it extra? Because that's what it comes down to. It's marketing. It's an extra 10 to $50. I've heard for a long time HD is a BS thing anyway. Like there's no thing. There's like 1080, right?
Right.
But a lot of these terms get thrown out there like HD, now in HD. And it's a marketing thing. It's not, and it's like, I am fine with watching things on DVD and Blu-ray, like legitimately. I'm totally, and I understand not everybody feels that way. And I've heard some people try to make the argument to me of like, oh yeah, but having it 4K, that's the best possible. It's like, but is it though? Because I would argue the best possible way to have Chainsaw Massacre, honestly, would be to have a 35 millimeter print of it that I could run at my house.
Yeah,
that would be the best possible.
That would be the best. Exactly. Exactly. And I was on the same thing. I was like, you know what? My favorite movies, I'm going to upgrade them to 4K. I'm going to get the 4K until I got Friday the 13th, 1980. And I noticed that. I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing myself a service here.
No.
By getting movies that were never meant to be in HD.
Yes.
In HD.
Yeah, it goes back to like some movies are meant to be. Hell, there's movies obviously now being made where that's the intent. Now, the question is,
I'd say, most of these modern movies, I'd say, yes, they take it at least into consideration.
Sure. And
this is how people are going to see them.
And you maybe agree with me on this, unless you got a 4K TV and you've got the whole setup, you're not getting the full benefit anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and I can't tell you how many times I popped in a 4K and I don't have like the master
me either.
setup.
I don't have a 4K
and
TV.
it comes up and says it's only going to show it in basically what would be Blu-ray quality because you don't have this cord.
Yeah, but they're like so they're like, ha ha on you paid extra.
Yes, exactly.
And look, the argument would be, well, yeah, but everything's going to go there. Yeah, but you know what? I heard that argument about 3D in movies. Where all movies going to become 3D?
And then what happened with 3D?
Where are we at with that now?
Exactly.
And I'm not saying it doesn't have its place. That's the thing that's so funny. It's like, fine. Cameron wants to make a new Avatar movie and make it 3D, then do that.
The Avatar, I think in animation. I remember seeing Paranorman in 3D, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
The only live action movie, and I did not see Avatar in 3D, I'll be honest with you. I didn't see that in 3D when I took my kids in 2009. I just saw the regular, 2D version of that. The one live action 3D movie that blew me away was Gravity.
Hmm.
That was pretty incredible. The 3D in that film was amazing, to the point that the next day I took my family back to see it.
Wow, that's cool.
Like, you gotta see this.
That's like an exception, though, that kind of proves the rule, because that's a movie that was, if you think about how that movie's shot and everything, and what it's about, that totally makes sense to me. So it's like, that's what it is. Could versus should.
Yeah.
You can make everything 3D, sure, even retroactively, and then although half the time that looked like crap.
Oh my God. The
Clash of the Titans. Remember Clash of the Titans?
Phantom Menace. I took my kids to see Phantom Menace, and they did 3D. That whole converting it to 3D. There were scenes where it looked like color forms moving around.
Really?
Because it was just bad. That's why they only ever did it with Phantom Menace and never did it again. They were going to go back and do it with all the movies.
Yes.
They did Phantom Menace. It was so bad that I'm sure Lucas is like, you know what? Put this in the vault next to the Christmas special, and let's just forget this thing even exists.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that proves the bigger point, which is, I think people that are like really into technology, or they're really into movies, like cinephiles, it's easy to get hung up on these ideas of like, oh, we could do this, we could do it's like, but again, and there's nothing wrong with trying it, experimenting with it, having this thing or that thing be it. I think where you lose me is when you say everything, okay, now everything's got to be this. It's like, why? Like, I'm totally fine with a movie being shot in 2024 on VHS or on a mini DV tape and putting it out with that aesthetic. Because here's the beauty of it. Why can't we have choice? Why can't we say, it's like painting, to bring that up again as our current metaphor. Why can't we say that, for this particular storyline, I would love for it to look like something that would have come out in 1992, shot on video. Like, that's the aesthetic I'm going for. It's intentional. Whereas back then it wasn't intentional. They just had to do what they had to do. You can do it intentionally now. Or I'm doing this project. It's big. It's sci-fi. I want to shoot it like 4K, blah, blah. Cool. You have options is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And plus some of the stuff that's coming out on 4K, like I don't know. It's things like, and I'm not even sure if this came out on 4K. I'm just throwing it out as an example, but like Wild Wild West with Will Smith and Kevin Kline. Do we really need that in 4K?
Probably not.
Who the hell's going to rush out and buy that thing anyway?
Yeah,
and all these other films, like things that, back in like going back to the 70s and 80s. Oh, let's put them out on 4K. Really, it just doesn't.
I don't need to see Taxi Driver in 4K.
Exactly. That's not gonna help.
No, it's not.
It's not gonna help that movie.
And that's the other thing is, like, I think because everybody behind this is so technologically oriented. I'm assuming, of course, I don't know for a fact that everybody is, but let's just say a good percentage of the people pushing this. Well, let me rephrase. Probably the biggest percentage of people are seeing dollar signs, and that's why they're doing it. But then you have the technological push. But the thing that's missing in that is the artistic consideration that Taxi Driver is our current example. Excuse me, is a movie that is gritty and raw. It has this aesthetic that you almost like. I remember one time I've seen the theater twice or once. I can't remember. I know the one time I know I saw the theater. It was like late 90s, early 2000s, before my kids were born. And there was this like art house theater near St. Pete Beach. It was the kind of theater you went in, like every other seat was kind of broken, and it was no stadium seating. It was the old fashioned, like everybody's pretty much at the same level. Your feet were sticking to the floor, and you were praying it was because of spilled soda. It was one of those. It was literally, but it was even that added to the experience of watching Taxi Driver.
That's how most people saw it.
Yeah,
they didn't. I think it was Tarantino who came out recently saying, you know what, he's not really upset over the death of the multiplexes.
I agree with him,
he's more upset with like the old type theaters, the mom and pops, and obviously he owns the New Beverly.
Yeah.
And I just found out that Kevin Smith owns a theater in his.
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah,
and he was talking about, well, the one of the things they wanted to do was rip out the seats, and I'm like, yeah, but these are the seats where I saw all those great movies back in the 80s and in the 90s. Do I really want to rip these seats out?
I get that mentality. And I will say this: I have thought, like, the only thing I feel bad about multiplexes is because that's a lot of people's jobs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's the only thing, because I'm of the opinion. He was like, the theaters are dying. I'm thinking, no. What'll happen is that the big 20 theater blah blah blahs will die. You'll get these like 2-screen, what you and I had as kids, 3 screens. Maybe you'll get a 5 or even a 10. A 10 screen would be huge, probably.
Yes,
and then they'll probably movies that would play there. it's never going to completely go, just like plays. We still have plays.
Yeah.
There are theaters all over the place where we live. You're going to plays like every other week, it seems like, with my family. So that's a B. I get so annoyed by is it going to be different from what you experienced 20 years ago, where there was multiplexes everywhere and you could go see, but think about it, even then, what Avengers is playing on like 8 screens in your 20 screen. So whoopee-doo. It's not like you use that space for like indie films.
Exactly. And then the one I go to a lot, that it has a heavy population of Hindi, from India, because of pharmaceuticals, and 6 screens are dedicated to the newest Bollywood releases.
I will tell you this: have you seen RRR yet?
No.
I was turned on to RRR because Chris Gore from Film Threat, it became like a drinking game on their show. Like every time he mentioned RRR, people were supposed to take a shot because he said it so much. It's on Netflix. It's 3 hours long. It is a Bollywood movie. Dave, it is fantastic.
Okay.
It's so great. No, Dave, it's like an action adventure Bollywood. Nice. Even it was so good. I showed it to my sons. Afterwards, they were looking up the music because they wanted to just listen.
That's really cool.
You would dig it. It's a great movie. It's so much fun.
That's Bollywood. I mean, that's what they do. Fun. I mean, I have a I think going back to the 90s, they did their version of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I have it on DVD.
Okay, and it's like 2 hours, and it's over 2.5 hours, and has 4 or 5 songs in it.
I'm going to totally butcher the title. It's like Mahakala or
Mahakal the Monster or something like that. Something like that. Yeah. I remember the very first I ever saw, back in 2001, I was getting all these foreign movies, because that was when I first got my DVD player, late 2001, early 2002. I'm getting all these foreign films. I first discovered the Criterion Collection, things like that. And I got one. I wanted to see the newest foreign releases, and I got Lagoon. Once Upon a Time in India, I think it was called. And I'm looking at it, it says, okay, 2 hours, 40 minutes. I can make it through that. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I look and I said, wait a second, it's now 2 hours and 50 minutes, and they're nowhere near wrapping up the story yet. And I looked, and it was 240 minutes.
Whoa.
I'm like, oh, geez.
I will say this, though. What shocked me about RRR was it was 3 hours long, just a hair over. It legit didn't feel like it. It felt like it flew by.
I mean, they move. I mean, there was one that was actually produced by a Hollywood studio co-producer called Saawiriya or something like that. I don't know how it's pronounced. But it had like the 2 stars in it were descendants of like one of the biggest stars in Bollywood. And they play a romantic couple, and it's a little bit disturbing because they're first cousins in real life. But they're playing these cousins. But again, it's that type of movie. Like it's very romantic. There's music. There's some scenes of like high drama. There's action, and you get a lot in.
They're entertaining. They're very.
They give you a little bit of everything.
Can I be honest with you? A little bit of everything. And because I'm not including indie films in what I'm about to say, but the current state of American film, especially on the corporate Hollywood level, I would rather have a 5-screen theater in my town or nearby that 2 or 3 of the movies are like Bollywood movies or Asian, some other, Asian film or foreign film or something else. And then an indie film, and then maybe 1 or 2 of the big movies that, you want to see. But by and large, like to me, and again, maybe this is the old man talking, but I would not hate a bit of a retraction in, because I feel like because there's so many multiplexes, that's what it all became about. It got all so corporatized that it loses something, man. It's just not. It's like that. It's just like in the same way, if you just use AI to make movies, you're not making movies. You're making AI. Call it that. Fine.
And they always like the multiplexes. They get here 20 minutes early, and you to see and what you get there 20 minutes early. Basically, like they might have a 2-minute clip. They might have a 2-minute segment on the making of this movie here, in between 18 minutes of commercials.
Yes. Yeah.
You know that you're basically there watching all these commercials. I can't tell you how many times I saw that M&M commercial. Where they're strapped to a rocket or whatever.
Oh yeah, how many times have you seen that one? My God.
Exactly.
Yeah. I want to make sure we wrap up for Ozone. So as far as since this is your first viewing, what is your general, like, if you want to get, I've sort of, this is like the one segment on all of Jay's shows, because obviously this Horror Lagoon, for those that don't know, goes out on Jay the Dead's New Horror Movies, and I personally hate to rate things as a 1 to a 10 on a personal level. On Mom and Pop Video Shop, we do think 1 to 5 tapes. And all that means is a 5 taper means, well, let's start at the bottom. A 1 taper is you would literally have started it, been so annoyed that you wasted money, you would have taken it immediately back that night and returned it and got something else. A 2 taper is you took it, you went back you finished it, but you went back the next day and because you're not blowing your weekend on that movie. Like you want to see something else. A 3 taper is you kept it until it was due back, but you just, watched it at least once and, returned it. A 4 taper is you were actually willing to maybe keep it a day or two longer because you wanted to see it at least one more time and pay the fine. A 5 taper is you're willing to commit a crime and lie and say you lost it and pay the $80 to $100 to replace it.
And so for you,
for you on a scale, sorry, Jay, to override your 1 to 10, but you can extrapolate out from whatever Dave says what this would be. From a 1 to a 5, how many tapes?
I would say 4. I'd say 4 tapes in this one because I really, you go in to these sort of movies with I'm not going to say the lowest expectations, but with lower expectations. Now this was Bookwalter, and I'd seen The Dead Next Door, and I liked The Dead Next Door. We reviewed that years ago. Was it on the Weekly Horror? I can't remember. Way back in the old days, I reviewed on. Jay was part of that review. And Jay was not a fan of The Dead Next Door.
Yeah, but see, the problem is, I don't know. I don't speak out of turn because I don't know what Jay's take was. But my guess is, like, does he consider the fact again that it was an extraordinarily low budget region? You've got to consider the context because I'm sorry to hold a movie like Dead Next Door up against a later Romero zombie movie.
Or like from around the time we see it, or like the Dead or something like that. You can't really compare the two of them. You can't.
No.
But this one, and I went in thinking, okay, well, I kind of know what I'm going to get with Bookwalter. And it went beyond that. It went beyond what I was expecting. And that alone, I think, shoots it up a little bit because it literally, like, I was just sitting there going, man, this is body horror. But this is damn good body horror. I mean, there were moments in this that could be in Cronenberg body horror.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And it's also true, and we alluded to this before, but even though it was shot with an SVHS camera, he took a lot of time to the lighting, he used gels, you could tell, because there's these like reds and greens and it's just, and then that doesn't even get into the final reveal, the drug kingpin or whatever he's called at the end. Played by
the Jabba the Hutt with D cups.
Yes. Yeah, James L. Edwards, who is a Bookwalter regular. In fact, he was in his latest film, Side Effects May Vary. He co-wrote it, or he wrote it, actually. He wrote Side Effects May Vary and stars in it. And he'd been working with Bookwalter forever. He's in that suit. He's actually the kid you mentioned, the people in the alley. I think he's the one wearing the hat as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Edwards too. So it's just cool that I thought that monster, because again, $3,500 budget, and they got a full monster latex suit. And it looks pretty damn good, in my opinion.
It does look pretty, almost like a pig face. I was noticing. Almost like
pig-headed horror.
Yeah, there you go,
pig-headed horror movie, Jay. Come on now.
Now, maybe not they weren't going for pig, but that's what it looked like to me anyway.
And I don't know tell me if you think this analogy sucks or not. I think comparing a super low budget, whether it's shot at Super 8 or SOV or whatever, to some other low budget horror that's even in the like million plus, which, let's be honest, $1 million to $2 million budget is very low budget budget for anything.
Nowadays it is,
movie wise. But comparing something that was shot for a few $1,000s, even I'd say definitely under $100,000 with something that costs $1 million plus, I think it's equivalent, in my opinion, especially if you're comparing it to like a Hollywood movie. It's like saying I'm going to compare this little boutique store that's in like a little, like in a downtown area that's owned by this couple, versus, but they don't have all the stuff I wanted, like when I go to Walmart or Target.
Yeah.
Well, no shit, Sherlock. They're not going to have everything you were expecting at a little mom and pop boutique. And honestly, especially with SOV, it's maybe better equivalent to say it'd be like going into like one of these like generic thrift stores that show up. You know what I'm talking about? They're run by like a church charity or a mom and pop. And they're just kind of like a pawn shop. It's like comparing a pawn shop, which could be awesome. You can find really cool stuff in a pawn shop.
Oh yeah, you could, and you can find really cool stuff. You can find really cool stuff in those ministry thrift stores as well.
Totally.
Because I found some DVDs that are out of print for like 15 years that people would donate there, and they're selling them for $1.
There you go. And that is the pleasure of it versus like, I go into this place and why don't they have all the stuff that my local Target has?
Yeah,
Because
right.
Target's a massive
Let me tell you something. The last time I went into Target, like the 2 times before, they had this section, and it was getting smaller, the section with the movies in it. But they had the newest releases, and I was looking for a new release, and I said, okay, well, there it is. This next time I go there, and there's children's books in that, and I'm like, where the hell is everything?
Yep.
I find them in the back of one area, near the stock room, on the bottom shelf.
Yep. Mine doesn't have any anymore. Our one close to us, they have nothing.
And I'm thinking they don't have any more. And my wife was like, well, you ask someone. I said, I'm not asking anyone. I just walked up and down this area. They would not be anywhere else. She goes, well, I'm going to ask someone. She asked the guy. He's like, oh, they're right here. And he points where the children's books are. He goes, hey, what the hell happened?
He didn't
where the
even
movies
know.
were. And he's like, where are they? And so he goes into the back. You see him come out, look in the section I did. He goes, I'm sorry. I guess this is all there is. I have no idea why. I mean, this is new to me, So it's like Target is doing the Best Buy thing and moving away. And everyone's saying, oh, it's the death of physical media. Best Buy's getting out of it. Who the hell went to Best Buy for the big buys?
Well, and I'll make a point to you. Maybe, Dave, tell me what you think about this. I think, again, like our conversation earlier about the multiplex, good. Yeah. Stop giving these corporate a-holes your money and get it from Amazon. Just
every time I walked into Best Buy, every time I walk into Best Buy, it's in a new damn place.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I don't know if you heard it.
It was a really bad joke, but I said, stop giving it to these asshole corporations. Give it to Amazon. That was a joke.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yes.
No, but there's so many of these amazing, it's giving an opportunity. If it wasn't for these guys letting go, these little boutique wouldn't be popping off like they are giving. We are literally, I would argue, at like the golden age of getting some kick-ass physical media. The extras we get.
Because of the Severin, Synapse,
all of those.
Syndrome,
Visual Vengeance, Terror, all of them. Saturn's Core, all of them. They're awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, they're coming out with great stuff.
Dude, now Netflix puts these movies out. They got all their movies. It's mostly, they'll distribute other people's stuff, but it's mostly their stuff. But the extra, if you are a fan of filmmaking and behind the scenes, they load them up.
They load them up with a lot of stuff. Now, some of them you're paying like a premium price for what ends up being a pretty crappy movie. But
I just got the Second Sight Films box set of The Hitcher, which funnily enough does come with a 4K, but it also has a Blu-ray, which is what I'll be watching. Right. But it came with a freaking book, a little mini book in the box set. It has a miniature version of the entire screenplay. You can read the whole screenplay, and it's got tons of extras on it. I ended up buying it through Viper Video out of Tampa because I like to support him, so I had him order it, and I just got it through him. Still, you know how much it cost me? This thing, and it's beautiful. Actually, hold on one second. I'm going to show you. Hold on.
All right. I feel like I should be playing music here or something.
All right. So here you go. Here it is. Ready for this?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is the box set. Look at how.
Wow.
Dude, this thing is freaking awesome. And wait, and if I open it, if I can get of course now I won't be able to get anything out, but like, I'll show you this here, this whitest piece, that's an actual like behind the scenes books with essay. It's a hardback book. Then there's the screenplay. Then there's like 6 lobby card type,
which I always love when they throw those in there.
I love it too. Yeah. I got this from I got May, the movie May with Angela Bettis, Lucky McKee. I freaking love that movie. I got from Second Sight Films. Put out, if you got a region-free player, their stuff is fantastic. And it's $59. It wasn't like it. I honestly, when I went to go get it, I had forgot to ask him before I told him to order it for me how much. I was thinking 100 minimum.
Right.
I thought it was gonna be like $100. He goes 59. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's really
look, that's not
something cheap. Like that. No, it's not cheap, but that's for something like that in a movie that you love, and
it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's freaking amazing, dude.
Absolutely. And then that's a place like Diabolic DVD. Like I'll shop from there every now and again. And it's funny because the first couple of times I got it, it had like the guy's name and his return address. I said, "Who the hell is this from?" But it turns out that's Diabolic DVD. Later, he doesn't even put Diabolic DVD in the return address. It's his name.
See, I love it. Don't you love that? You know what that reminds me of, Dave? You remember back in the day with Fango, and in the back they had like Midnight Video. They had all these like companies where guys would just like get copies of copies and just send you a VHS, which I never. One of my biggest regrets is that I never, just because I was in high school, so I didn't have a ton of money, and I'm like, I never did that. Like I never took full advantage of that. I think Peter did. Peter did that.
I ended up, the one thing I bought, and I know I've talked about this before, was Nosferatu.
Oh,
I got a video copy of Nosferatu from one of those catalogs. Took forever to get there, but it's one of those things where it's like, send it in. It says it'll take 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep.
2 days later, I'm running to the mailbox. And I did that every day for
But see, but it was that anticipation.
Yeah,
that was the fun part. And then
exactly.
the one thing I do remember getting, I'm pretty sure it was through the back of Fango, is I got this catalog. I still have it somewhere. It's like a Xeroxed catalog from a company that was making, like, they would make all the products so that you could make practical special effects. And this is like early 90s. And I got to find it because I needed to have it out for display. It was freaking awesome. And I remember getting that in the mail and think it was a cool, like, it came in a little bit of envelope. It was it's that experience. It's the experiential part of all this that's missing. It's the reason why we bitch about no video stores. It's not just that there's no video store. It's that you miss that experience of physically going to a place. Because not all of us are cool with being stuck in our houses doing, fuck all.
Right. You're going to a place you don't even know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You're going to rent a couple movies. You're going to look and you're going to say, oh, wow, the cover for this looks pretty awesome. And I've had plenty of them that would be one tape.
Yeah.
Where I started watching it. I'm like, yeah, this is garbage. And I stopped it and I took it back and I said, well, let me try and get something else.
Yeah.
But that, like you're saying, that was the experience. That was the experience of, and that's what I loved. And I remember going into Kmart and they had a $1 VHS bin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I first saw 2 Hitchcock movies. Sabotage and The Man Who Knew Too Much, the original version, which both of which are amazing movies. And I got them in the $1 bin. And there was also in that bin the Night of the Living Dead. Because it was obviously it was
public domain.
Public domain at that point. So they can't charge a lot and anybody could put out a copy of it.
Yep.
But those were pretty. And
I feel like, and here's the thing, rather just being like these old guys who are bitching back in our day, what I love is there's this opportunity that it's looking, because they were looking at like, oh, we're losing all this, but what you're gaining is it's different. Like, because when we were kids, you weren't getting extras like that.
No. You weren't getting any extras. Let's be honest, streaming, you're not getting any extras either.
And then there's that. Yeah, there's that. Every once in a while, they'll have the thing where you could pay extra and get all the behind. It's like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Pay another $1.50 and we'll give you the 8-minute making of from behind the scenes.
So then when your license is up, you can get it off your platform, and then I've wasted my money. Yeah, no,
and if they start doing commentaries, you're gonna have to pay for the whole movie again because that's the whole movie.
Yes.
I don't even know. Maybe they do. I don't know if they've done commentaries.
They might have. I really have. I
don't follow it that much.
I think, and it will never be in the numbers that maybe it was at its peak, obviously. Mm-hmm. But there's always going to be some level of an audience for physical media, even young people. Yes, Dave Z. I'm sorry. I know he's convinced like no young people. I know my kids are unique because I brainwashed them, but I feel like by and large, I'm getting a sense that there are people, because you know what it is too, Dave? Cut to 1981. How many people had VCRs in their homes?
Yeah.
How many?
We didn't get one till 83. So
you know what I'm saying? But people did have them, but it was a niche thing. It grew, so it expanded. But now
there were people in the 70s. There were people in 1974 who had a VCR because I remember someone lending me a videotape of the last game of the Stanley Cup when the Flyers won the second cup against Buffalo. And I'm pretty sure that was in 74, maybe 75. But
somebody recorded
and they had recorded with commercials, with all the commercials from that time.
Oh, that's cool.
And I remember borrowing that tape and watching it. And that's one of the coolest things about it is, I have tons of sporting events and stuff where you sit there and you try to edit the commercials out. When I would record a movie off, and I want to get rid of these commercials. Then you're like, oh man, the movie started again. And I didn't, you hit it and it's not, finally you're like, screw it. I'm just going to record.
And then you never knew that 30 years
through them. And then 30 years later, you're watching them.
Yes, because you actually love them.
You're watching all the commercial breaks.
Yeah. I just feel like commercial C&D could also stand for commercial nostalgia disorder, because let's be honest, commercials are just obviously marketing brainwashing, getting you to buy and consume, but they could create massive nostalgia.
And some of them now are definitely things that you could not do, like the Calgon one.
Oh yeah, Calgon,
ancient Chinese secret.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
We need more Calgon, ancient Chinese secret, huh?
That's hilarious. Yeah. All right, Dave. Thank you for being here, my friend. I legitimately feel. I know Ron wants to do a Horror Lagoon with me as well, but honestly, and I mean, I'm just saying this now. It's totally your prerogative. If you don't mind co-hosting these with me when you have time, I would love for you to be a regular part of the Horror Lagoon.
I would love it. I would absolutely I'd be happy to do that. And we even have our next movie lined up.
That's right. What? Tell him what it's going to be. What are we going to cover?
Frankie and his pals.
That's it. And I got my copy. I told you that. I got my copy.
You got your copy.
Shockingly cheap. It was like $10 on eBay. I thought they would go for a lot more.
It's from Intervision.
Okay.
You know who puts out a lot of that? They put out Things.
Yes. The Polonia, right? That Polonia brothers. Yep.
Yes, the Things and Sledgehammer and some of these. Man. Real straight to video type stuff. But this one has a Frankenstein's monster. It has a wolf man. It has a mummy.
And lots of what appears to be sexual jokes,
sexual and fart jokes. The trailer even included a fart joke. And from what I understand, it was shot in California, but in like Northern California, in an area that was known for the gold rush. It's almost like I almost get the feeling it might be like a ghost town or something where they shot a lot of this movie.
I'm really looking forward to watching that.
I am too. I haven't seen it. I remember hearing people, here talked about it on a podcast. I'm like, Frankie and his pals. Oh, that sounds kind of. And I looked it up and I was like, well, like you. I'm like, wow, I could pick this thing up for like $9. It's like nothing.
Sure. It had some extras on it too. It wasn't like just the movie.
No, absolutely. It definitely. They had some interviews with some of the cast members who were like, yeah, we didn't think we were doing that. I mean, none of us thought we were actually making a movie. I mean, but we'd show up and we'd shoot some stuff, and then we just thought we'd go home and go back to our regular jobs. And I think that happens a lot. People, a lot of these, a lot, especially with these boutique labels, people are shocked.
That
people want to see about these movies.
I think it goes back to my whole argument, and of course, I want to take credit for this or something. But my whole argument about this idea of everything being so homogenized and clean and almost perfect, that they're striving for such perfection, finding things that are highly imperfect is, I don't know, it's something refreshing about it. It's just, that's how I take it.
I don't know if you've ever seen Deathbed, The Bed That Eats, the movie from the late 70s.
I've not seen it, but I know of it. Yes.
The guy who made that movie didn't find out till 20 years later there was a VHS copy of it floating around. He thought the movie was completely gone. He didn't realize that people had bought that movie and could actually rent that movie and see that movie. Awesome. He didn't find that out till years later. He thought, my God, I thought this thing was just sitting on a shelf somewhere collecting dust.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time that we're living in now. And I'm going to be honest, there's some movies, like when we're doing our top 10 lists for 2024 for like Jay of the Deads, I'm not going to go out and just buy these movies anymore because I have bought plenty of crap that had no chance of making my list. And I'm like, what? I'm just doing this to hit a number that, I've seen this many movies. No, BS. Yeah. I will stream and I will pick up the ones I really like.
Yep.
And that's what I'm going to do.
Back to my point about AI. Streaming is good as a way to preview to see if that's something you would like to add to your collection.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I don't think it's the end all and be all there. If you love that movie, why wouldn't you want to own it?
Exactly. And then I'm liking the fact that even the Netflix ones, there's a chance.
Yes, indeed. All right, my friend. And I didn't say this. It kind of goes without saying for me. Obviously, Ozone is a 5-taper.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
In the world of SOV, and honestly, beyond, I argue Ozone is the Citizen Kane of shot-on-video horror.
I think you could make that case. You definitely can make that case. Yeah, it really is. And I'm thinking on repeat viewings, it might go up. I might not care that was the Audubon in that guy's parking lot.
Totally. Yeah, and we had J.R. Bookwalter on the show. Actually, if you're listening to this on Jay's show, you can go over to the Mom and Pop Video Shop on YouTube, and we have actually 2 interviews. When we went to that Tampa Bay Screams, we interviewed him, awesome. And then we did a more in-depth one about Side Effects May Vary some months back. And I believe in that I may have told him either before the recording or during. I told him that I thought Ozone was the Citizen Kane.
Nice.
Video.
And I definitely think so. I definitely think so because it has all the elements and it really is. It's very well made.
All right. So, Dave, before we sail off to the sunset, let them know where they can find you.
I have still my blog, dvdinfatuation.com. It's looking like in March, I'm going to hit review 3,000. Which
nice.
So I've gone 500 beyond what I initially intended to do.
Awesome.
And because I'm posting one a week now. And there will probably be a review of Ozone on there at some point.
Cool.
Yeah, but I'm written out far enough. It's not going to be till 2025 is when it's going to.
So basically, about the time that Jay releases the episode.
Exactly. I might even beat it by a year. But the blog's still going. I'm still over on X, I guess it is now. I still call it Twitter at DVD Infatuation.
Call
Facebook.
call it Zitter. Wouldn't an X have a Z sound?
Zitter. Yes, there you go. That's probably that's not a bad name for it. On Facebook, and if you haven't joined the Land of the Creeps group over there, because it's a great group of people.
Dude, they
a lot of people sharing things.
Great. Yeah.
And Greg and Pearl run it, and they do such an awesome job with it. They really keep it a very strong community.
Yes.
And they don't put up with any of the BS that you get in these other things.
I think I post in there more than I do in like the Retro Movie Geek one. I'm not. I know I do. Actually, I know I do. I love
people do that. Like post there more than their own group.
It's hilarious.
And of course, podcasts. I have DVD Infatuation, which is on Jay's Considering the Cinema, and we're also doing our weekly watch lists. Jay, Mac, and myself, where we get together and we talk about what we're watching. And it's mostly not horror. That's one of the reasons Jay wanted to put this together. And I'm using it to get caught up on all my collection that I've not seen.
Nice.
So that's the weekly watch list. It was coming out weekly till October, at which point Jay was like strictly doing horror on Jay of the Dead's New Horror, which is where you would you hear the audio for this one. Definitely check that out. Some of the episodes are pretty long, like 5-6 hours long.
No.
Like originally it's like, well, if you want to make it long enough for like a drive to a vacation spot. I mean, some of these
drive cross country.
If you're rowing across the ocean, you could probably start it on one coast and listen to it in another country.
Yeah.
Or finish it up there. So Jay of the Dead's New Horror, Land of the Creeps, of course, is still going. We're getting ready to record our 400th episode.
Dang, that's sweet, man. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun. And so that's pretty much it for me.
Cool. All right. Well, then we'll wrap it up here, kicking it back over to Jay of the Dead and Jay of the Dead's New Horror Movies. And for those of you that are watching this on Mom and Pop Video Shops, remember at Mom and Pop's, our love of what, Dave? Our love of
VHS
never stops.